I used to believe love meant waiting. Not the loud kind of waiting. Not the kind that complains or demands answers. But the quiet kind. The patient kind. The kind where you tell yourself, if I wait a little longer, love will come. I believed that if my heart was strong enough, time would do the rest. In the beginning, it felt easy to believe. When I first met him, everything felt warm and light. His smile stayed with me long after he left. He looked at me like I mattered, like I was someone special in his world. When he spoke, I listened carefully. When he promised, I believed him completely. He didn't promise big things, just small ones. I'll call you later. We'll spend more time together soon. I'm not going anywhere. Those words felt safe. They felt enough. I remember thinking, this is what love feels like. Simple, calm, full of hope. At first, I felt chosen. He texted me in the mornings. He asked about my day. He held my hand when we walked together. I noticed the small things, the way he laughed, the way he remembered my favorite song. Those moments made my heart feel full. I gave my love freely. I didn't count how much I gave and how little I asked for. I believed love was not about balance. I believed it was about patience. But slowly, without me noticing, waiting became part of my daily life. I waited for messages that came later and later. I waited for calls that never rang. I waited for plans that were always maybe. At first, waiting felt temporary. Then it felt normal. I learned how to keep my phone close without looking desperate. I learned how to say it's okay, even when it wasn't. I learned how to smile when he said he was busy again. Waiting became my habit. I would sit quietly in my room at night, my phone beside me, the screen dark. Every sound made my heart jump. Every silence made it sink again. And still, I waited. I told myself stories to protect him. To protect us. He's tired. He has a lot of pressure. He doesn't mean to hurt me. He will change when things get easier. I repeated these excuses so many times that they started to sound like the truth. I carried them in my heart like shields, protecting him from blame and protecting myself from disappointment. I believed love meant understanding, so I understood everything, even the things that broke me a little. The more he disappeared, the more I stayed. The more distant he became, the more effort I gave. I listened more. I waited longer. I asked for less. I thought if I loved him enough, he would finally see me. But something strange happened. I was in a relationship, yet I felt alone. Not the kind of alone where no one is there, but the kind where someone is there and still doesn't reach for you. The kind of loneliness that sits quietly beside you. I remember evenings where I sat at the table, an empty chair across from me. I remember late nights when the room was silent, except for my thoughts. I remember checking my phone again and again, knowing there would be nothing new. Sometimes he was physically with me, but his mind was somewhere else. His eyes were far away. His words felt short and careful. And I felt invisible. I missed him even when he was right beside me. That kind of loneliness hurts more than being alone. Still, I told myself this was love. Still, I waited. Then came the small moment that changed something inside me. It wasn't dramatic. There was no fight. No shouting. No tears in front of him. It was a forgotten date. A day I had quietly saved in my heart. A day I thought mattered to both of us. I waited that day like I had waited so many times before, ready, hopeful, calm. He didn't come. He didn't call. He didn't explain. Hours passed. Then the day passed. Then the night. When he finally sent a short message, it felt empty. Like an afterthought. Like I was something easy to forget. I remember reading that message again and again, trying to find love inside it. There was none. I felt something crack inside me. Just a little. Not enough to leave. Not enough to speak. But enough to hurt deeply. I smiled when we talked again. I said I understood. I said it was okay. But inside, I was tired. Tired of waiting. Tired of hoping. tired of loving alone. That night, lying in the dark, I asked myself a question I had been avoiding for a long time. Why does love feel like waiting alone? The question stayed with me. It didn't leave the next morning. Or the next day. For the first time, I didn't try to answer it quickly. I didn't cover it with excuses or hope. I just let it sit quietly in my heart. And in that quiet, something began to change. Not loudly. Not suddenly. But slowly. Like the first moment before waking up, when you realize a dream is not real anymore. That was the moment my waiting began to turn into something else. The moment of clarity did not arrive with noise. There was no fight. No shouting. No final words spoken with anger. It came quietly, like everything else in my relationship. I was sitting alone, holding my phone in my hand, waiting again. Waiting for a message. Waiting for proof that I mattered. Waiting for something that used to feel natural but now felt heavy. And suddenly, I felt tired in a way I had never felt before. Not tired of him. Not tired of love. But tired of abandoning myself. In that moment, I saw the truth clearly for the first time. He was not going to change. Not because he was cruel. Not because he wanted to hurt me. But because he didn't need to. I had already accepted less. I had already adjusted my heart to his absence. I had already taught him that my waiting had no limit. That realization hurt more than any broken promise. I didn't feel angry. I felt awake. For a long time, I had been loving a future that did not exist. A version of him that lived only in my hope. I imagined conversations we would have, days we would share, a love that would someday feel full and equal. I mourned that future quietly. I mourned the woman I thought I would be with him, the one who felt chosen, safe, and loved without effort. Letting go of that dream felt like losing something real. Even though it had never truly existed, there is a special kind of pain in letting go of hope. Hope makes promises without asking for permission, and when it leaves, it takes a part of you with it. I cried, not because I lost him, but because I finally accepted what I never had. Then I asked myself a question that felt even harder than leaving. Why did I stay? I sat with that question for a long time. The answer was not simple. It wasn't just love. It was fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of starting over. Fear of silence without someone to wait for. Waiting had become familiar. Pain had become predictable. And sometimes, predictable pain feels safer than the unknown. I realized something that made my chest feel heavy. I had been so afraid of losing him that I lost myself instead. I stopped asking for what I needed. I stopped trusting my feelings. I stopped believing I deserved more. I stayed quiet to keep the peace. I stayed patient to keep the hope alive. I stayed small to stay loved. And in doing so, I slowly disappeared from my own life. That was the moment I knew I had to choose differently. Choosing myself did not mean I hated him. It did not mean I blamed him. It meant I finally listened to the voice inside me that had been whispering for so long. I stopped explaining my pain. I stopped chasing answers. I stopped waiting. Not with anger. Not with revenge. But with calm. For the first time, I chose silence, not the painful silence of waiting, but the peaceful silence of letting go. I didn't need a dramatic goodbye. I didn't need him to understand. I needed to understand myself. And what I understood was this: love should not feel like work you do alone. I began to learn a new definition of love. Love should feel safe. Love should feel equal. Love should feel warm, not heavy. Love should not make you question your worth. It should not make you feel invisible. It should not require you to disappear. The more I repeated these truths, the stronger they became. Healing did not happen all at once. Some mornings, I still reached for my phone out of habit. Some nights, the silence felt too loud. There were moments when loneliness knocked on my door and asked to come back in. But something had changed. I was no longer waiting. I learned how to sit with myself without fear. I learned how to enjoy quiet mornings without checking the time. I learned how to breathe without feeling like something was missing. I noticed small things again. The sound of birds outside my window. The comfort of my own bed. The peace of knowing I did not have to prove my value to anyone. There were nights without tears. Mornings without anxiety. Days that felt light again. Healing was slow, but it was real. I started speaking to myself with kindness. I forgave myself for staying too long. I forgave myself for loving deeply. I forgave myself for believing loving was never my mistake. For the first time in a long time, I felt whole. Not because someone chose me, but because I chose myself. And if you are listening to this, still waiting for love to show up, still believing that patience will turn into pain, I want you to hear this clearly. Waiting is not the same as loving. Love should never cost yourself. If you are waiting for love to choose you, remember this. You can choose yourself, and that choice can change everything.